Patterns of attack. And so, I had this customer a while back say, "Hey, I really just want to understand, what story does my data tell? Why are we getting all these alerts? Why are we having all these attacks? What's the data telling me? What's the story behind all of this?" And so he was talking more on a overall environmental level, like more, longer term. But if you think about an individual attack or even like day-to-day activity, what story does that data tell? And then can you capture that story, especially around incidents? Can you capture that story and then detect that same story again next time? That's really what patterns of attack are. So let's say you're looking at endpoint activity, and you say, okay, let's just start with email. It's still effective, unfortunately. So let's start with email. So Outlook runs. All right, and then let's say, okay, well, the story that I've been seeing is Outlook spawning Acrobat or Outlook spawning Word. Okay, that happens a lot in my environment, so that's not a big enough story to alert on. So then I say, okay, so Outlook spawning, let's say Word, and then Word spawns either I've been seeing PowerShell or some new binary that it wrote out. And so that story starts growing, and you say, you know what? I don't have legitimate activity in my environment that matches that story. But the bad activity, the malicious activity, does match that story. So that's a perfect candidate to alert on. So something like Outlook spawning Word, spawning PowerShell. Now, maybe in your environment that's legitimate, so you have to keep building out the story. But essentially, how fast can you get to a story where the good activity, the expected activity, the legitimate activity does not fit that story anymore, but the bad activity will? That's where you create these patterns of attack, these pieces of information that have context between them and relationships. Another example is, hey, people are connecting to Dropbox. Well, okay, that's allowed in my environment. But if you can say, you know what, if someone connects to Dropbox, but it's not Chrome and it's not the Dropbox app, then I want to know about it, right? So you start figuring out, what pieces of information can I pull together? What behavior can I model? And then what can I alert on where the good story doesn't fit that pattern, but the bad story does? So what's the story in your data? How can you convert that to a pattern of attack? And then how quickly can you use that to ultimately disrupt or prevent these attacks? And then guess what? Please share with everybody. We all need to share more. But you got to start with having visibility. It's fundamental. If you can't see it, if you can't see what these stories are, what the behavior is, what the activities are, how can you ever look for that? How can you ever alert in an automated fashion off of that? So again, patterns of attack, moving beyond indicators of compromise, moving to actual stories. You're looking for the story of the behavior, where if you swap in and out that one character in the story, it's still the same story, right? So what are you looking for? Patterns of attack.